David kept repeating something in this interview that wasn't even needed, and it only made him look guilty.
But she died in the back of my mind. Like, I didn't kill her physically, but in the back of my mind, she died. In the back of my mind, so then you think that I'm gonna say you died, but I say I killed you. Or something that she did, or something that I decided to do, and I killed her in the back of my mind. But it's really more figurative I killed you, especially in the back of my mind. I try to stress that in the back of my mind. That's why I say it so loud. In the back of my mind, you died. In the back of my mind, I killed you. In the back of my mind, you died.
So I don't know if what this person is saying is true. I don't know if he's trying to interfere with an investigation and get himself arrested. But this person on Reddit made a post saying that he lives in the area where David's rental home in LA is. And he was just walking around the area to see if he could spot anything when he looked down and actually saw a Tesla key card on the ground, hidden in like a little gutter area underneath some leaves. Now, law enforcement has been notified of this discovery. The only thing is that it's been out in the environment, and as you can see, this person is touching the key with his bare hands. I always thought it was common sense that you don't touch evidence with your bare hands, but I guess it's not so common anymore. Now, if this is in fact David's Tesla key, this opens up a whole other can of worms, because this kind of could indicate that someone else may be involved in all of this. I looked it up, and David's Tesla, the one that Celeste was found in, does come with a key card. Now, you can use your phone to unlock this vehicle, or you can use this key card if you don't have your phone or if your phone died. All you have to do to unlock this car with this key card is tap it on the driver's side door pillar. So could David have had help by someone back in LA while he was on tour? Did someone else have access to his Tesla key card? If this is David's card, he could have put it there himself when he was walking back to his residence after parking the car where it was ultimately left, so that in the event that Celeste was found in the Tesla, he could say that he didn't have the key, he dropped it somewhere, he lost it, someone must have taken it. But until we know more, and until we know if this is actually even true, I don't want to speculate on that. What do you guys think about this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think that this could be David's Tesla key, or do you think that this is just something that is being posted to distract us, to make us look one way instead of the way that we were currently looking?
On September 20, 2025, a Reddit post ignited new speculation in the David Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. A user claimed to have found a Tesla key card lying in a storm gutter near Bluebird Avenue, just blocks away from the Hollywood Hills rental house, where David had been staying in late September. The key card, according to the post, appeared slightly scuffed and water-damaged, suggesting it had been exposed to the elements for several days. The finder reportedly turned it over to the LAP the same evening, though police have not confirmed whether the key card was connected to David's Tesla Model Y, the same car in which Celeste's decomposed body was discovered weeks earlier. The discovery sparked intense online debate. Some believe the key card could represent a crucial missing link in the chain of evidence, potentially proving that someone, either David or an accomplice, had deliberately discarded it after abandoning the car. Others theorized it might have been dropped earlier, during a frantic cleanup, or even planted after the fact. What makes this clue especially compelling is the timing. The card was found just as LAD intensified searches around David's former residences, raising questions about whether investigators had already been tracking digital pings from Tesla's internal access logs. If verified, the card could help reconstruct the movements of the Tesla after Celeste's death, pinpointing when and where it was last unlocked. Tesla key cards are trackable via paired devices, and access data can reveal which card was used to start or move the vehicle. Whether this card belonged to David, a friend, or someone trying to cover their tracks remains unclear, but its sudden appearance feels less like coincidence, and more like the storm that brings buried truths to the surface. As the Tesla key card discovery rippled across Reddit and true crime circles, one question took center stage: is David being framed or finally exposed? The timing of the key card's appearance, found days after investigators widened their search near his Bluebird Avenue rental, has fueled polarized theories. On one side, skeptics argue it could be planted evidence of an object strategically placed to strengthen an already suspicious narrative against the young artist. They point to how fast Reddit sleuths located and publicized the find, suggesting possible manipulation of the digital rumor mill to sway public opinion. On the other side, supporters of the official investigation note that Tesla key cards are highly specific digital markers, traceable, time-stamped, and difficult to fabricate without access to the vehicle's system. If LAPD confirms it matches David's car, the theory of an intentional discard, or even a frantic cover-up gains serious traction. Ultimately, this debate exposes a deeper tension between crowdsourced detective work and real-world evidence. The line between discovery and distortion has never been thinner. Whether the keycard exonerates or implicates David, its emergence underscores how, in the age of social media, truth itself can be both revealed and rewritten in real time. In a case this sensitivity marked by a young victim, a grieving family, and a community still reeling after Celeste's funeral on October 7, 2025, neutrality isn't just ethical, it's essential. Every clue, including the Tesla keycard, must be weighed against verified facts, not online hysteria. Baseless speculation risks deepening the wounds as already suffering and distorting justice itself. As Reddit sleuths race ahead of official reports, one question lingers. Can a tiny Tesla card in a sewer solve the case or send David into a spiral of suspicion? The Celeste Rivas story. Celeste Rivas Hernandez had been missing before so many times, in fact, that her family's calls to the police had begun to blur together. Between February 2024 and April 2025, they filed 11 separate missing person reports, each time describing the same pattern: a teenage girl who ran away from home, sometimes for a few days, sometimes for weeks. She would return disoriented but unharmed, her family relieved, yet increasingly desperate to understand what she was running from and who she might be running toward. The cycle continued until one day she didn't come back. By April 2025, Celeste had effectively vanished. For months, her name faded from local news coverage. But among her online circle of friends, rumors swirled about her spending time in Los Angeles. Some even mentioned sightings near Hollywood Hills, where her favorite musician, David, had recently rented a property. At just 15, Celeste had grown up online, immersed in the world of music fandom and social media, her digital trail a reflection of both innocence and exposure. Those who knew her described her as creative, lonely, and eager to belong, traits that made her both endearing and heartbreakingly vulnerable. Everything changed on September 8, 2025, when workers at the Hollywood Tow lot made a disturbing discovery. A white Tesla Model Y, registered under the name of Houston-born singer David Anthony Burke, known as David, had been towed 3 days earlier, on September 5, after sitting for days in a restricted zone near Laurel Canyon. The car had originally been ticketed on August 27 for overstaying parking limits. Only when staff went to process the vehicle did they notice a foul odor emanating from the trunk. When LAPD officers pried it open, they found what one investigator later described as a heavily decomposed female body sealed inside a black plastic bag. Forensics quickly determined that the remains matched Celeste Rivas Hernandez, missing for more than a year. According to the preliminary report, she had likely been dead for several weeks before being discovered. The advanced state of decomposition made the exact cause of death difficult to determine, delaying the final autopsy. LAPD officials confirmed that there were no immediate signs of pregnancy, refuting several viral claims circulating on social media. This was later confirmed on her official death certificate, issued October 1, 2025, which stated, "Decedent not pregnant at time of death." The implications were devastating. Not only had a missing teenager been found under such tragic circumstances, but her body was linked to a rising music star whose career had defined the soundtrack of her generation. LAPD investigators quickly secured warrants to search David's Hollywood Hills rental, seizing electronics, surveillance drives, and other personal items. The artist himself, according to his manager Josh Marshall, was fully cooperating with police and completely unaware that the vehicle was involved in any crime. Still, the optics were damning: a teenage fan dead in the trunk of his car, found weeks after she disappeared. In the weeks that followed, the case spiraled into a national sensation. Fans mourned Celeste online, while conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. Some insisted David had been framed, others were convinced of his guilt. Yet behind the noise, the tragedy remained painfully simple: a young girl who had cried out for help, again and again, only to end up silenced in the most literal way imaginable. Her story, and the unanswered questions surrounding it, would go on to haunt not just those who knew her, but an entire community grappling with the uncomfortable truth that sometimes, the warning signs are visible but the system still fails to act. When news broke that the decomposed body found in a Tesla registered to singer David Anthony Burke, known globally by his stage name David, was identified as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the shockwaves were immediate. Fans, journalists, and investigators all turned their attention to the young artist whose melancholic lyrics and introspective aesthetic had earned him millions of followers. But as the emotional tributes for Celeste began to pour in, rumors of a secret relationship between her and the musician began to surface, rumors that, if true, could shift the case from tragedy to criminal scandal. Online sleuths were the first to connect dots that seemed, at least superficially, incriminating. Screenshots circulated showing David with a tattoo on his forearm that some fans claimed matched once, had posted weeks before her disappearance, a small minimalist symbol rumored to represent two souls intertwined. Others pointed to the unreleased demo Celeste, a melancholic song snippet that had been shared briefly on Discord in mid-2024, before disappearing from his accounts. The lyrics, describing a girl too young for the world, too heavy for her dreams, fueled speculation that the song was about her. Former classmates and online friends of Celeste also recalled her bragging in private group chats about talking to David and showing alleged screenshots of affectionate messages. None of these communications have been independently verified, and police have not released any statements confirming or denying the existence of such exchanges. Still, the public perception quickly hardened. If there had been an intimate connection, it would fall squarely within the legal definition of statutory rape, as David was in his early 20s and Celeste had been only 14 or 15 during their reported interactions. In the days following the body's discovery, David's world unraveled. His management announced the immediate cancellation of his withered North American tour, citing personal and legal reasons. The decision stunned fans and industry insiders alike. Tickets had sold out across major venues, and his streaming numbers were at an all-time high. Then, on September 17, 2025, Elade executed a search warrant on his Hollywood Hills rental, a sleek $20,000 per month property overlooking Laurel Canyon. Witnesses described officers carrying boxes and computer equipment out of the home. Within 48 hours, the lease was terminated, and David's belongings were reportedly shipped back to Texas. That same week, the singer retained high-profile criminal defense attorney Blair Burke, known in Los Angeles legal circles for representing celebrities facing serious allegations. Her involvement signaled that the situation had escalated beyond a mere witness inquiry. Sources close to the investigation confirmed that Burke had already contacted LAPD to coordinate interviews and restrict unauthorized searches of David's personal devices. While no formal charges were filed, her swift appearance underscored a clear shift in strategy from cooperation to containment. Then came a series of peculiar financial measures that only deepened public suspicion. On September 18 and again on September 22, 2025, David filed paperwork in Texas transferring ownership of two residential properties, worth a combined $1.7 million to his mother's name. The transactions were public, traceable through county records, and coincided precisely with the height of the investigation's media coverage. Financial analysts and legal commentators quickly identified this as a potential case of fraudulent conveyance, a term describing asset transfers made to shield property from possible lawsuits or seizures. While not illegal in itself, such timing suggested preemptive asset protection, a move often interpreted as anticipating litigation or liability. To his defenders, these actions were signs of a young artist under siege, overwhelmed by grief, media intrusion, and the chaos of being implicated in a case he insisted he knew nothing about. To his critics, they were the classic reflexes of a man preparing for legal fallout. The truth, as in so many cases of celebrity scandal intertwined with criminal tragedy, lies somewhere in the murky middle. LAPD has maintained that David remains a person of interest, but not a suspect. Detectives have confirmed that he cooperated voluntarily in interviews, and that no physical evidence has yet tied him directly to the act of concealment. Still, they have not ruled out the possibility of accessory charges, particularly if evidence surfaces that he or someone connected to him knew about the body before the car was towed. For now, the case against David exists in a vacuum of partial truths: a dead girl who idolized him, a car registered in his name, tattoos and songs that blur the line between art and confession, and a string of financial decisions that suggest fear rather than innocence. Whether these fragments form a portrait of guilt, or a young man caught in the gravitational pull of tragedy, remains the question haunting every corner of this storm. As of mid-October 2025, the LAPD has not filed any criminal charges in the death-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose body was discovered inside a Tesla registered to musician David Burke. Authorities have stated that, at this stage, there is insufficient evidence to charge any individual with homicide or related offenses. Instead, investigators are focusing on the likelihood that the case involves post-mortem concealment rather than deliberate killing. Detectives continue to examine the Tesla's digital telemetry, GPS logs, and key card data to determine who last accessed or moved the vehicle. It was ticketed on August 27, 2025 and towed on September 5. These data points may clarify whether the car was abandoned intentionally or simply forgotten after a mechanical or registration issue. Investigators believe that whoever placed Celeste's body in the vehicle intended to delay discovery, but the motive and sequence of events remain unclear. Police confirmed that they executed a search warrant on David's Hollywood Hills rental property on September 17, seizing multiple electronic devices, including phones, laptops, and hard drives. Digital forensics teams are currently analyzing those items for communications, deleted files, or location data that could link him or anyone in his circle to the car's movements. Sources familiar with the inquiry note that David coded fully during the search and initial questioning, though he has remained publicly silent since early September, communicating only through his attorney, Blair Burke. According to LAPD spokesperson Officer Natalie Sosa, the investigation is now in a waiting phase, pending the final autopsy and toxicology results, which are expected to clarify Celeste's cause of death. Early reports suggest no external trauma, leading investigators to consider possibilities such as overdose, asphyxiation, or accidental death followed by concealment. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office has not yet released an official ruling. In the meantime, detectives are cross-referencing phone records, surveillance footage, and vehicle access logs to reconstruct the timeline of Celeste's final weeks. While speculation runs rampant online, law enforcement officials have urged the public to avoid drawing premature conclusions. Until toxicology confirms how Celeste died, and until digital forensics links the car's handling to a specific person, the case remains an investigation without formal suspects, teetering between tragedy, rumor, and the slow pursuit of truth. Within days of the Tesla discovery, the case of Celeste Rivas Hernandez and David became a viral media phenomenon, an unsettling blend of celebrity intrigue, true crime obsession, and online investigation. Traditional outlets like the Los Angeles Times and IBA Times UK ran feature-length articles dissecting the case's timeline, emphasizing the tension between the ongoing LAPD inquiry and the public's rush to judgment. But the story truly exploded on Reddit, where communities such as David and Celeste Rivas Hernandez began functioning like amateur detective hubs, archiving screenshots, alleged messages, and speculative timelines. While mainstream journalists cautiously reported verified facts such as the towing and discovery dates, search warrants, and autopsy confirmations, Redditors filled the gaps with theory building. Some threads accused law enforcement of protecting a celebrity, while others suggested the artist himself was a victim of a smear campaign. The tone swung wildly between investigative zeal and moral outrage, blurring the line between citizen journalism and digital mob justice. Tensions escalated further when, on September 18, 2025, local Texas media reported a swatting incident at the home of David's mother in Hempstead, Texas. Law enforcement responded to a false emergency call claiming evidence destruction was underway at the residence. No arrests were made, and police later confirmed it was a hoax call, but the event underscored how deeply the online frenzy had invaded real life. Some speculated the swatting was a form of harassment by online vigilantes. Others interpreted it as a chilling sign that someone close to the case was being monitored or silenced. In the digital age, public opinion moves faster than any investigation. The collision of celebrity culture, social media, and grief has turned this tragedy into a global spectacle, one where truth competes not with lies, but with the sheer velocity of collective speculation. Tesla keycard story, OG thread. The Reddit thread that would eventually be dubbed the Tesla keycard discovery began innocuously enough as just another weekend post from a Los Angeles local exploring the quiet residential stretch of Bluebird Avenue in the Hollywood Hills. But within 72 hours, it had grown into one of the most discussed and divisive online developments in the Celeste Rivas Hernandez, David investigation, spawning hundreds of comments, speculative spin-offs, and even police involvement. The first post appeared on the evening of September 27, in a newly active thread within Celeste Rivas Hernandez, titled simply, "Spotted this in the gutter under some leaves, looks like a Tesla keycard." Attached was a single photo showing a black, slightly soiled Tesla keycard, half covered in damp leaves, resting along the edge of a curb. The geotag placed the image near Bluebird Avenue, a quiet street lined with mid-century homes not far from David's former rental property. The card appeared scuffed and lightly bent, as if it had been outdoors for several days. The post quickly gained traction, with roughly 200 upvotes within the first 6 hours as users debated whether the object could truly belong to the Tesla Model Y that had been towed weeks earlier with Celeste's body inside. Several commenters urged the poster, later identified only by their handle Stormy Trail, to contact the LAPD immediately, while others questioned the authenticity of the find. One top comment read, "If that's real and from that Tesla, you might have just found a key piece of evidence." The discovery reignited interest in the case after days of relative quiet, transforming the subreddit into a hive of activity overnight. The following afternoon, Stormy Trail returned with an update. "It's a legit Tesla key fob. Should I call cops?" This time, the post included a 10-second video clip showing the card being lightly brushed clean and tested against an NFC scanner, which failed to register any data. The user explained that the card contained an intact NFC chip, but was not scannable, possibly deactivated. The clip was filmed directly at the gutter site, confirming the object had not been moved far from its discovery point. Within hours, the post surged to over 300 upvotes, attracting a flood of speculation. Some commenters warned that handling the keycard barehanded could have compromised fingerprints or trace evidence. Others questioned whether the card had been planted to stir chaos or manipulate public opinion, given the mounting online obsession with David's possible involvement. One Redditor noted that the Bluebird Avenue location matched the area where David's rental had been searched by police earlier that month, suggesting the card could have been discarded during cleanup or seized and dropped by someone else. Theories flourished that the card had been tossed by a guilty party, that it had washed out of a car during a storm, or that it was simply a coincidence exploited by viral detectives. Despite the uncertainty, the general sentiment across the thread was uneasy fascination, a sense that this minor, tangible discovery might finally connect the digital sleuthing to something physical. By September 29, Stormy Trail posted one last update under the title, "Handed over the key card in a bag. Fingers crossed this helps Celeste's family." The post included a photo of what appeared to be a Los Angeles Police Department evidence submission ticket, timestamped that morning, and a short caption describing how the Redditor had visited the local precinct to hand over the card in a sealed zip bag. The tone was earnest and restrained, ending with, "Not sure if this means anything, but I hope it brings some clarity or closure." This post drew the largest response yet, roughly 400 upvotes within hours and an influx of new users. Many praised the Redditor for acting responsibly and showing respect towards Celeste's family. Comments like "You did the right thing" and "finally, someone helping instead of gossiping" topped the thread. But as with all viral discoveries, skepticism wasn't far behind. Some users accused Stormy Trail of seeking attention, noting that the timestamps between the posts seemed too convenient and the photos too perfectly staged. Others speculated that the Redditor might have had prior knowledge of the card's location, suggesting a possible connection to someone involved in the case. By the end of September, the Stormy clue, as it came to be called, had become a centerpiece of public speculation. The LAPD confirmed they had received a possible piece of physical evidence from a community member, but declined to verify its connection to the David Tesla case. Whether genuine discovery or orchestrated distraction, the original thread changed the tone of online investigation. It marked the moment when the digital search for truth collided with real-world evidence, and when one anonymous Redditor's curiosity became a catalyst for renewed public scrutiny. In hindsight, those three posts, simple, uncertain, and oddly cinematic, captured the chaos of modern true crime, a world where justice, curiosity, and clout chase each other endlessly down the same digital gutter. The mysterious Reddit user behind the Tesla keycard discovery thread, known by the handle Stormy Trail, has become an unlikely figure in one of the most scrutinized internet-driven investigations of 2025. Contrary to early rumors claiming the finder was a neighbor of David's or someone linked to local law enforcement, subsequent sleuthing revealed that they were simply a Los Angeles local, not directly connected to either party. In their limited post history, Stormy Trail described themselves as just a random true crime nerd who walks around Hollywood Hills on weekends. Their previous Reddit activity, mostly commenting on missing person threads, crime podcasts, and local community posts, suggests a person driven more by curiosity than by hidden agendas. According to their own account, the Tesla keycard on September 27, 2025 was purely coincidental. They claimed to have been walking along Bluebird Avenue, a hilly residential street that had become a quiet symbol of the David Celeste case, when they noticed something shiny under a pile of wet leaves. Their first instinct was to share the find on Reddit's D4vd, a small but rapidly growing community of around 5,000 members that had become a hotspot for amateur analysis after the September 8 revelation that Celeste's body had been found in David's Tesla. Within that community, users often exchanged maps, photos, and theories about the case's timeline. In that context, Stormy Trail's motive appears rooted in digital participation, not deception. They were not seeking fame or money. Rather, they wanted to contribute something tangible to a case that had captured the collective imagination of the subreddit. Their three posts spanning from September 27 to 29 documented each stage of discovery, testing, and evidence submission. The progression showed an unusually transparent chain of behavior for an online civilian. They found the card, examined it, asked for, then turned it over to police. Still, one detail drew both praise and criticism: the barehanded handling of the Tesla keycard. In the second post, showing a 10-second clip of the card being tested with an NFC scanner, viewers noticed the Redditor touching it without gloves. Some accused them of contaminating potential DNA or fingerprint evidence. Others argued that their candor posting the unedited clip proved good faith rather than deceit. If they wanted to fake it, one Reddit comment noted, they wouldn't have shown themselves touching it at all. Experts weighed in as the thread went viral. Former forensic analyst Diana Castro, speaking to iTimes UK, explained that while contamination could complicate DNA recovery, chain of custody can still establish evidentiary value if timestamps, photos, and witness statements align. LAP's own statement later confirmed that the item had been collected and preserved for analysis, without suggesting the Redditor acted improperly. Critically, there is no evidence that the keycard was planted, a theory that circulated briefly in Reddit's more conspiratorial corners. Those rumors speculated that someone might have strategically dropped the card to incriminate or distract David. But nothing about the Redditor's timeline supports such an elaborate setup. Their posts were consistent, timestamps matched local weather conditions, and the location fit with what would be expected if an abandoned vehicle's keys were discarded nearby. If anything, Stormy Trail's story reflects the double-edged nature of online sleuthing. On one hand, their curiosity and initiative may have surfaced as a legitimate clue in an unsolved investigation. On the other, their actions triggered them of scrutiny, mistrust, and harassment, proof that even well-meaning participants in viral cases can quickly become targets themselves. In the end, the Redditor's identity remains officially anonymous, protected by moderators and likely known only to LAP investigators. What stands out, however, is not malice but method, a citizen investigator drawn into the gravitational pull of a story that blurred entertainment, empathy, and obsession. Whether their discovery ultimately contributes to justice for Celeste or fades as another footnote in a digital frenzy, their transparency and sincerity made them one of the few unfiltered witnesses in a case built almost entirely on rumor. When Stormy Trail first uploaded the photo of the Tesla keycard on September 27, 2025, the image appeared deceptively simple: a matte black card half buried beneath damp leaves near a curb on Bluebird Avenue. In the dim evening light, the faint silver Tesla logo caught just enough reflection to confirm authenticity. The card's edges showed light scuffing, faint dirt, and water spots, evidence that it had been outdoors for several days but not long enough to be heavily weathered. To the untrained eye, it looked like a common Tesla access card. To a growing online community, it looked like a potential key literally to unlocking a mystery. The location of its discovery immediately raised eyebrows. The card was found less than 100 meters from David's former Hollywood Hills rental, the same property searched by LAPD on September 17 following the discovery of Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body in a Tesla Model Y registered to the singer. Its proximity alone made it impossible to ignore. As iTimes UK reported 2 days later, on September 29, the discovery raises fresh questions about who may have dumped the body. Physically, the card bore no visible serial number or unique markings. Unlike older key fobs, Tesla's minimalist design keeps identification hidden inside its encrypted NFC chip, which links each card to a single vehicle via Tesla's internal database. When Stormy Trail attempted to scan the card with a smartphone NFC reader the following day, it failed to respond, suggesting that it might have been deactivated, damaged, or paired with a specific vehicle requiring Tesla's proprietary interface. In simpler terms, only Tesla or law enforcement working with them could confirm whether the card was connected to David's Model Y. That uncertainty has fueled two competing theories. The first argues the card may have fallen accidentally, perhaps from a pocket, glove compartment, or bag during a chaotic cleanup. Given the street's steep slope and recent rainfall, it's plausible that runoff washed the card several feet downhill, leaving it nestled in the gutter where it was found. The second theory is darker: that someone intentionally discarded the card to sever themselves and the vehicle after Celeste's death. If true, it could signify conscious concealment, an act not of panic, but of strategy. Technically, a Tesla keycard is far from anonymous. Every activation, unlock, and start generates a digital signature and timestamp, retrievable from Tesla's servers. If investigators confirm that the Bluebird Avenue card is linked to David's car, its usage log could reconstruct the car's final movements before it was ticketed on August 27, towed on September 5, and finally opened on September 8, when Celeste's body was discovered. That chain of digital footprints could determine who last handled or drove the vehicle, distinguishing between owner, guest, or third party. The press treated the card as more than just a clue. It became a symbol of narrative tension. For journalists, it represented the thin divide between accident and intention, innocence and guilt. iTimes UK noted that even without confirmation, the card's existence near the rental property reopens questions about access, timing, and responsibility. Reddit users, meanwhile, dubbed it the Stormy Clue, after the finder's username, and debated endlessly whether it was the work of coincidence or cover-up. Visually, the card's condition tells a restrained but revealing story. It was not polished, not recently dropped, but weathered just enough to suggest a forgotten trace of an object, both literal and metaphorical, bridging the worlds of technology and tragedy. It may have fallen unnoticed during the chaos of departure, or it may have been tossed deliberately into obscurity, as if someone hoped the rain would wash away what it represented. Either way, this black, Dirt-streaked Tesla card has become an emblem of the case's haunting uncertainty. Its silence mirrors the unanswered questions that define the investigation. Who drove the car last? Who knew Celeste was inside? And why did the truth, like the card itself, end up buried beneath leaves on Bluebird Avenue? The discovery of the Tesla keycard on Bluebird Avenue didn't just ripple through one corner of Reddit, it set off a digital earthquake across multiple subreddits. Within hours of the first post, comment sections filled with competing voices, curiosity, suspicion, admiration, and cynicism, all blending into the familiar chaos of online true crime discourse. Each of the 3 posts by the finder averaged 200-300 comments, a remarkable level of engagement for a small subreddit. The initial thread drew in regular followers of the case, while the later updates attracted thousands of new eyes once screenshots began circulating outside the core community. Moderators scrambled to contain the deluge of speculation as users debated whether this was a genuine breakthrough or another case of Reddit chasing ghosts. Roughly 60% of commenters praised the finder as a citizen detective, applauding their initiative and transparency. To these users, the post represented what Reddit did best: ordinary people noticing small details that professionals might overlook. Many pointed out that, unlike the usual rumor mongering, the Redditor had provided tangible evidence, documented its discovery, and handed it to the authorities. Supporters emphasized that their actions were careful, even admirable, in a case already defined by silence and unanswered questions. The remaining 40% were deeply skeptical. These commenters argued that the thread felt like engagement bait, an attempt to farm karma or media attention by inserting oneself into a viral investigation. Some questioned the timing, noting how the post appeared just as the online buzz around the case had begun to fade. Others floated darker theories, suggesting the key card might have been planted to divert suspicion or to frame someone connected to the car. Those users pointed to the finder's decision to handle the card barehanded as too convenient, claiming it gave an easy excuse for potential DNA contamination. The discussion quickly spilled beyond its original subreddit. The post was cross-shared to Music, where it received more than 11,000 upvotes, and later to Grateful, where it earned another 2,800, turning the mystery from niche investigation into viral internet folklore. Users unfamiliar with the case debated whether the story reflected morbid fascination or collective empathy, drawing parallels to other high-profile true crime threads where the line between curiosity and exploitation blurred. But virality came at a cost. Within 48 hours, moderators began deleting large portions of the thread after users attempted to trace the finder's identity and post geolocation data from the Bluebird Avenue photos. Accusations of doxing and witch hunting forced admins to intervene, freezing comment sections and locking reposts. What began as a grassroots detective effort devolved into a chaotic cycle of exposure and retraction, leaving fragments of the conversation scattered across the site. By the end of the week, the Reddit community stood divided but reflective. Some saw the event as proof that collective investigation could still matter, that one ordinary observer could stumble upon something meaningful. Others viewed it as a cautionary tale about how easily public curiosity can morph into harassment and misinformation. In the end, the Tesla keycard didn't just test LAPD's forensic lab, it tested Reddit's conscience. Is David falsely accused or related? In one possible interpretation of the evidence, David may have been deliberately framed, the victim of a calculated setup designed to tie him to a crime he didn't commit. Central to this theory is the discovery of the Tesla keycard, found near Bluebird Avenue weeks after his Tesla Model Y registered in his name was towed from Hollywood on September 5, 2025. If the vehicle already been impounded when the card appeared, the timing raises serious doubts about authenticity. The keycard could have been planted by someone seeking to direct suspicion back toward him, using Reddit and social media to amplify the find and manipulate public narrative. The swatting incident on September 18, 2025, at David's mother's home in Hempstead, Texas, further strengthens this framing hypothesis. That event, where a false emergency call sent armed police to the residence, suggests targeted harassment, potentially by individuals or groups intent on escalating public pressure against him. Swatting often accompanies coordinated online campaigns aimed at intimidation or image sabotage. In this context, it could be seen as part of a wider effort to psychologically and reputationally corner the artist before any legal charges were established. Throughout the investigation, David has cooperated with LAPD, allowing searches of his Hollywood Hills property and digital devices. Yet despite the public frenzy, I've found insufficient evidence to charge him. Forensic reports have not tied him directly to the Tesla at the time of Celeste's death, and no physical evidence, fingerprints, biological traces, or eyewitness accounts places him at the scene when the body was placed in the car. His voluntary compliance contrasts sharply with the behavior of someone with guilt to hide. This scenario gains plausibility when considering that others may have had access to David's vehicle. High-profile artists often share or lend cars to assistants, managers, or friends. It's possible that someone close to his inner circle used the car without his full awareness, either for personal errands or, more ominously, for concealment after an incident involving Celeste. If that person later disposed of the keycard near the rental house, the intent could have been twofold: to eliminate their own trace and to link the crime symbolically back to the vehicle's owner. Another key point supporting this theory is the absence of any clear motive for David to harm Celeste. While online speculation has hinted at a romantic connection, no verified evidence supports the claim of an intimate or exploitative relationship. Even if the two had contact through social media or fan interactions, such exchanges were never proven to extend beyond casual communication. For a celebrity whose career was at its peak, the risk of engaging in any illegal or violent act would outweigh any conceivable gain. If David was indeed framed, the plot reflects Trujan use his own possessions and public image against him. Let Reddit discover the evidence, and allow media momentum to do the rest. In this version of events, he is not a predator or accomplice, but rather a pawn caught in a storm of digital manipulation, tragedy, and obsession that spiraled beyond his control. While the idea that David may have been framed carries emotional and circumstantial weight, several pieces of evidence challenge its plausibility. Chief among them is the physical proximity of the Tesla key card to both his rented home on Bluebird Avenue and the Tesla registered in his name, in which Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body was discovered. The probability of such coincidences occurring independently of David's knowledge is exceedingly low. If the card had truly been planted, it would require an orchestrator with intimate awareness of his property, vehicle registration, and movements, an unlikely combination for a random harasser or internet vigilante. The location itself undermines the framing argument. The key card wasn't found miles away, where a potential saboteur could have dropped it undetected. It was discovered within walking distance of the house LAPD had already searched. This suggests the card likely originated from that environment rather than being introduced later. Even if someone had wanted to frame him, placing the card so close to his last known residence would be a recklessly direct move, virtually guaranteeing police attention. To many observers, this proximity supports the simpler explanation: the card belonged there. Critics of the framing theory also point to David's own behavior in the weeks following the discovery. His decision to cancel the Withered tour, vacate his $20,000 per month Hollywood Hills rental after the police search, and transfer 2 Texas properties to his mother's name all between September 17 and 22, 2025 appeared strategic rather than spontaneous. While his attorney characterized these moves as standard legal precautions, they align closely with the pattern of someone anticipating legal exposure, not simply protecting reputation. In particular, the property transfers drew legal analysts' attention as possible asset shielding, a move often associated with individuals expecting litigation. The Sidebar podcast's legal correspondent Matthew Selson summarized this skepticism succinctly. There is no competing theory out there. Every tangible connection in this case, from the car to the house to the card, circles back to David. You can't invent a phantom suspect who knows how to mimic Tesla key data and dump a body in his vehicle. That statement reflects the prevailing view among legal experts and mainstream commentators, that the circumstantial web, though incomplete, points inward, not outward. However, the framed hypothesis retains a sliver of plausibility through one unsettling detail: the swatting incident on September 18, 2025, at David's mother's home in Texas. That event, confirmed by local law enforcement as a hoax, suggests someone was deliberately trying to harass or intimidate the artist during the height of the investigation. Yet even this episode may not prove a framing attempt. It could simply reflect the dark ecosystem of online true crime fandom, where obsession and cruelty often masquerade as activism. Ultimately, the evidence against the framing scenario lies not in any single fact, but in the convergence of patterns: the car, the rental, the timeline, and the silence. For David to be innocent, nearly every physical and digital trace from vehicle access to neighborhood geography would have to align by coincidence. And while stranger coincidences have occurred, investigators, analysts, and much of the public remain unconvinced. While no formal charges have been filed, a growing body of circumstantial evidence continues to suggest that David may have had direct or indirect involvement in the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The rumors surrounding his relationship with Celeste form the emotional and moral core of this suspicion. Multiple online acquaintances of the teenager have claimed that she once boasted about talking to David, showing what appeared to be screenshots of affectionate messages and private exchanges. Although these have not been authenticated by law enforcement, they align with other troubling coincidences, most notably the matching minimalist tattoos both were reported to have in early 2024, and the existence of an unreleased demo track allegedly titled Celeste. In the song, David reportedly wrote about a girl too young for the world, but too old for her dreams, a lyric that, if referring to Celeste, would imply awareness of her age and emotional vulnerability. If their relationship was indeed romantic or sexual in nature, it would legally qualify as statutory rape, since Celeste was only 14 or 15 at the time. Such a revelation would not only destroy the artist's public image, but could provide a powerful motive for concealment, panic, shame, and fear of prosecution. The Tesla key card, discovered in the gutter just below David's Hollywood Hills rental, adds a physical dimension to this theory. If the card belonged to his car, the same one in which Celeste's body was found, it suggests that either he or someone close to him handled it recently. The card's placement, lightly soiled but intact, supports the idea that it was discarded intentionally, perhaps during a rushed cleanup after realizing the car had been abandoned and ticketed. As Times UK phrased it, the find raises fresh questions about who may have dumped the body. Then there are David's post-discovery actions, which some legal analysts have interpreted as consciousness of guilt. On the Sidebar podcast, legal commentator Matthew Selson observed, "You don't transfer two houses and cancel a tour out of coincidence. You do that because you see the storm coming." Between September 17 and 22, 2025, David not only terminated his Hollywood lease and canceled his withered tour, but also transferred ownership of 2 Texas properties to his mother's name, a move often associated with protecting assets before litigation. To Selson and others, this behavior mirrors that of someone anticipating criminal exposure, not simply enduring bad publicity. Even if David did not personally place Celeste's body in the vehicle, he may have known about it or assisted after the fact, perhaps hoping to delay discovery or protect someone within his circle. The lack of visible struggle or forced entry into the Tesla hints at familiar access, the kind a registered owner or trusted associate would have. Combined with his silence and the suggestive digital trail of personal connections, these factors form a pattern that investigators cannot easily dismiss. In this interpretation, the tragedy is not a random act but the culmination of secrecy and fear, a young girl's devotion turned fatal, and a young man's choices spiraling into irreversible consequence. While the speculation around David's involvement in the death of Celeste Hernandez has captivated the public, the available evidence remains largely circumstantial, built on rumor, inference, and emotion rather than confirmed fact. Despite online claims and viral Reddit posts, the LAPD has publicly stated there is not enough anyone as a suspect as of October 7, 2025. This official stance underscores a critical reality: no forensic, digital, or testimonial evidence has directly tied David to either Celeste's death or the concealment of her body. The most significant unknown remains the cause of death. Preliminary findings suggested that Celeste had been deceased for several weeks before discovery, but no external injuries or clear signs of trauma were found. Toxicology results are still pending, and investigators have privately indicated that an accidental overdose remains a strong possibility. If that is confirmed, the focus of the case could shift from homicide to a tragic scenario of neglect, misjudgment, or fear, perhaps someone panicking and abandoning the car, rather than committing murder. Without toxicology or digital confirmation of foul play, any claim that David killed or knowingly concealed the body is, at best, speculative. Much of the suspicion against David stems from public perception, rather than concrete evidence. The alleged matching tattoos, unverified screenshots of conversations, and the rumored existence of a song called Celeste are all anecdotal. None have been corroborated by law enforcement, and in celebrity culture, fans frequently create or misinterpret symbols of attachment. The possibility that these coincidences have been exaggerated by online sleuths cannot be discounted. As the LAPD has emphasized, no verified communications between David and Celeste have surfaced, and no digital records, texts, calls, or posts have been linked to his devices. The Tesla keycard discovery also fails to establish guilt. Although it was found near David's former rental home, proximity alone does not equal proof. The card could have fallen during legitimate use, been dropped by another person, or even been dislodged by rain runoff weeks after the car's towing. Importantly, police have not confirmed that the card belongs to his vehicle. If forensic testing shows no fingerprints, DNA, or verifiable Tesla pairing, then the object becomes an ambiguous artifact, not incriminating evidence. As for David's behavior, canceling his tour, vacating his Hollywood property, and transferring assets, those actions, while suspicious on the surface, are not unusual for a public figure under intense scrutiny. Celebrities often take defensive financial and personal measures during crises to mitigate damage or protect family members. Legal analyst Matthew Selson's claim that these moves show consciousness of guilt remains an interpretation, not proof. His statement is opinion, not evidence admissible in court. Finally, David's consistent cooperation with LAPD, allowing searches, submitting to questioning, and communicating through counsel contradicts the narrative of a fugitive or obstructive suspect. If he were hiding something, evasion would be expected. Instead, his compliance suggests he is following legal advice to remain silent publicly while the investigation unfolds. In summary, while rumors of intimacy, panic, and concealment have dominated online discussion, no direct evidence supports the theory that David was criminally responsible for Celeste's death. Until the autopsy and toxicology reports are finalized, the tragedy remains an unsolved mystery, yes, but still without a proven perpetrator. No single piece of evidence has divided public opinion more sharply than the Tesla keycard found on Bluebird Avenue. For some, it's the ultimate clue that David or someone close to him discarded it during a desperate moment of concealment. For others, it's a planted prop, intentionally placed to incriminate a celebrity under siege. The truth of its origin and its meaning may determine the entire direction of the case. If the card was planted, the next question is motive. Who would benefit from fabricating a connection between David and Celeste's death? One theory points towards Celeste's family or advocates, frustrated by the slow pace of the investigation and seeking to force police attention. In this reading, the card's discovery just days after the case had begun to fade from headlines looks like a strategic effort to revive public outrage and pressure law enforcement. Another theory focuses on online antagonists, a so-called hater or opportunist seeking viral attention. Planting a Tesla card near David's rental would be a low-risk, high-reward stunt capable of reigniting online debate and drawing millions of clicks. A more subtle variant suggests someone within David's entourage might have done it either to misdirect investigators or to manipulate the narrative internally. If a manager, assistant, or friend had access to the Tesla and knowledge of the scandal, planting the card could serve as both a warning and a distraction. It would point suspicion outward while shielding whoever actually handled the car after Celeste's death. However, if the card was genuinely discarded by David himself, the logic of panic comes into play. The timing of its appearance late September, roughly 2 weeks after the LAPD search, and just as media outlets began dissecting the case's inconsistencies suggests a reactive impulse. Instead of destroying or hiding the card, throwing it into the gutter may have been the instinctive act of someone overwhelmed, attempting to symbolically distance himself from the crime. The fact that it was found intact and near his rental home supports this. It wasn't carefully disposed of, merely tossed aside. Critics of this view argue that if David truly wanted to erase evidence, he could have easily destroyed or hidden the card completely. Yet stress responses are rarely rational. Panic may have driven him to discard it hastily without considering its traceability. The card's light layer of dirt and limited weathering indicate it had been exposed for only a few days before discovery, fitting a timeline of fearful spur-of-the-moment disposal following public scrutiny. Meanwhile, the LAPD has taken possession of the card and confirmed ongoing forensic testing. Technicians are analyzing NFC serial data to determine whether it corresponds to David's Tesla Model Y and are conducting DNA and fingerprint tests to establish who last handled it. As of mid-October 2025, no results have been released publicly. Whether the keycard turns out to be a planted decoy or a discarded confession, its significance is undeniable. It has become both a symbolic and literal key, one that could unlock the truth behind a tragedy, or expose how far speculation can travel before facts catch up. Reddit sleuthing's role in true crime. The Tesla keycard episode on Reddit didn't just reignite debate about the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case, it also reminded the world of something uniquely modern: the power of couch detectives. Ordinary people, scrolling from their living rooms, can sometimes make discoveries that reshape investigations. The OG thread, started by a curious Redditor walking along Bluebird Avenue, captured that dynamic perfectly. It showed the best and worst of online sleuthing: curiosity tempered by caution, transparency mingled with chaos. From the very first post, the tone of the thread was unusually responsible for Reddit's true crime landscape. Rather than hoarding the find or spinning wild theories, the user immediately asked, "Should I call the cops?" Within 48 hours, they had documented, bagged, and handed the Tesla key card over to the LAPD, sharing every step with the community. That level of openness, photographs, timestamps, and evidence receipts earned widespread respect. Many called it how citizen investigation should be done: transparent, traceable, and collaborative, not conspiratorial. Even skeptics who doubted the card's importance acknowledged the value of the process itself. It wasn't the first time Reddit had bridged the gap between armchair curiosity and real-world impact. A decade earlier, in 2015, users of the subreddit r/gratefuldo had achieved a landmark success in online forensics. The community was dedicated to identifying a Don killed in a 1995 car accident, remembered only for a Grateful Dead concert ticket in his pocket. Through persistent cross-referencing of missing person reports, crowd-sourced facial reconstructions, and outreach to online archives, Redditors helped confirm the victim's identity as Jason Callahan, ending a 20-year mystery and reuniting a family with long-lost answers. That moment established Reddit as more than a gossip engine. It proved that collective intelligence, when disciplined and empathetic, could serve justice. The Tesla keycard thread stands in that lineage. Whether or not the card ultimately changes the case, it demonstrates that a global audience is now part of the investigative ecosystem. Each smartphone camera, Google Map coordinate, and timestamped post can form a new layer of digital witness. The LAP itself acknowledged receiving the evidence and commended the finder's cooperation, an understated but important nod to how online communities can complement official work rather than obstruct it. Of course, this power comes with peril. The same energy that solves mysteries can also fuel doxing, harassment, and rumor spreading, as seen when the thread briefly spiraled into personal attacks before moderators intervened. Transparency can devolve into voyeurism in a matter of clicks. Still, moments like the Bluebird Avenue discovery remind us that the crowd's instincts aren't always destructive. Sometimes they illuminate what professional systems overlook. In a world where tragedies unfold in real time and police departments fight public distrust, Reddit's army of couch detectives reflects a deeper human drive to seek truth together, even from behind screens. Whether their discoveries turn out to be breakthroughs or dead ends, they prove that empathy, persistence, and openness can still move investigations forward one post, one clue, and one keycard at a time. The story of the Tesla keycard found near Bluebird Avenue proved once again that digital communities can play a real role in criminal investigations if they act with transparency and responsibility. The original Reddit thread documenting the find became an example of how couch detectives can turn curiosity into action without crossing ethical lines. The user who discovered the card didn't hoard information or sensationalize it, they photographed the evidence, logged its location, and turned it over to LAPD within 48 hours. Their updates were timestamped and honest, acknowledging mistakes like touching the card barehanded, but showing accountability at every step. In doing so, they set a quiet standard for online participation in active cases: be transparent, act quickly, and let professionals verify the facts. This kind of civilian involvement isn't new, but it has evolved dramatically with social media. When handled responsibly, Reddit's hive mind can serve as an informal investigative tool, surfacing details that might otherwise go unnoticed. The Tesla keycard thread didn't just attract attention, it encouraged others to think critically about chain of custody, digital traceability, and the line between sleuthing and interference. It was one of the rare times a viral discovery on Reddit moved in sync with law enforcement instead of against it. There's a powerful historical precedent for this collaborative model: the Grateful Doe community's success in identifying an anonymous crash victim in 2015. For 2 decades, Grateful Doe, a young man found dead in a 1995 car accident, known only for a Grateful Dead concert ticket in his pocket, remained nameless. Then a handful of Reddit users began cross-referencing old news clippings, missing person archives, and fan forums. Through digital facial reconstructions and shared tips, they finally matched the face to Jason Callahan, giving closure to his mother and proving that collective intelligence, guided by compassion, can succeed where systems stall. Both the Grateful Doe case and the Tesla keycard thread highlight the potential of community-driven forensics when guided by ethics and transparency. These users weren't police officers, journalists, or experts. They were ordinary people refusing to look away. But the difference between help and harm comes down to restraint. When curiosity turns into rumor or accusation, online investigations can derail the truth. When handled like the Bluebird Avenue discovery with documentation, humility, and swift cooperation, they can complement traditional policing. In an age when crime stories unfold in real time and the public demands answers before evidence is confirmed, the line between professional investigation and public engagement has blurred. Yet as these examples show, that line doesn't have to be destructive. With discipline and empathy, the so-called couch detectives can illuminate darkness without becoming part of it, and sometimes, a single honest post can push a case closer to the truth. The discovery of the Tesla keycard near Bluebird Avenue dramatically intensified public scrutiny of David, even though it has not changed the official status of the LAPD investigation. Since its handover to police on September 29, 2025, the card has become more of a symbolic lightning rod than a verified piece of evidence, a focal point for speculation, media sensationalism, and online theory building. While law enforcement has repeatedly stated that testing is still underway and that no charges or suspects have been named, the find has reshaped the conversation around the case, turning digital rumor into perceived reality. Almost immediately after the Reddit post went viral, media outlets picked it up and ran with minimal verification. The IB Times UK and Express Tribune both published articles within 48 hours of the thread's creation, describing the discovery as a potential breakthrough in the Celeste Rivas Hernandez investigation. Their coverage relied almost entirely on screenshots from Reddit and crowd-sourced commentary, rather than direct law enforcement confirmation. Phrases like raises fresh questions about who may have dumped the body and lent an aura of legitimacy to what was, in truth, an unverified internet find. Within a day, dozens of YouTube and TikTok creators amplified the same headlines, transforming the investigation into a viral spectacle. For David, the keycard's discovery compounded the storm already surrounding him. Even though AP officials maintained that there was insufficient evidence to charge anyone, public opinion tilted sharply toward suspicion. Online discussions reframed the card as a smoking gun, ignoring that the investigation had not confirmed whether the NFC chip matched his Tesla. The card's proximity to his former Hollywood Hills rental house became shorthand for guilt in the eyes of many social media users. Every action he took afterward, from canceling his withered tour to transferring his Texas properties, was reinterpreted through the lens of potential culpability. Yet legally, the card has not altered the course of the investigation. It remains a physical item under forensic review, not a definitive link. AP sources have indicated that until Tesla confirms the serial association, and until DNA or fingerprint analysis lies who last handled it, the keycard is contextual rather than conclusive, an interesting detail, not evidence of a crime. Investigators continue to treat the case as one involving postmortem concealment or accidental death, rather than homicide, pending final toxicology results. What the keycard has changed, however, is the information ecosystem around the case. It illustrates how online discovery can outpace formal investigation, forcing institutions to respond to narratives shaped by Reddit threads and social media virality. In this sense, the keycard's real power lies not in what it proves, but in what it provokes, a public condition to seek connection before confirmation. Ultimately, the card's discovery marks a turning point not in the lady's evidence file, but in the public trial of perception. It amplified suspicion, blurred fact and conjecture, and turned a small physical object into a symbol of the internet's restless search for truth, often long before truth is ready to be found. End. The Tesla keycard discovered near Bluebird Avenue has become one of the most debated clues in the ongoing investigation into Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death. Its story began with an OG Reddit thread, where a local user, later known only as a Stormy Trail, documented finding a small black Tesla card under damp leaves by a gutter close to David's former Hollywood Hills rental house. The Redditor acted with notable transparency, photographing the card, asking for public advice, and turning it over to LAP within 48 hours. This openness earned them praise for responsible citizen sleuthing, though their decision to handle the card barehanded drew criticism for possibly contaminating DNA or fingerprint evidence. Despite the viral attention that followed, the card itself remains an ambiguous clue. For some, its proximity to the rental home suggests a direct connection, perhaps discarded by David or someone in his circle after realizing the Tesla had been towed with Celeste's body inside. For others, the timeline and Reddit exposure indicate that the card might have been planted to reinforce an online narrative already tilting against the artist. LAP has since confirmed that forensic testing is underway, including DNA swabbing and NFC serial tracing to verify whether the card is linked to David's vehicle. As of mid-October 2025, however, no results have been released. Crucially, the keycard does not prove either guilt or innocence. It has deepened public fascination and intensified scrutiny of David, but legally it has not shifted the case's foundation. The singer remains uncharged, and detectives have stated that evidence so far points more toward post-mortem concealment or accidental death than premeditated homicide. Without the autopsy and toxicology reports, even the basic cause of Celeste's death remains unresolved: overdose, asphyxiation, or something else entirely. The Reddit discovery has therefore become a symbol of the tension between digital investigation and due process. It shows how one object, amplified through viral curiosity, can reshape public perception before facts are confirmed. Whether the Tesla keycard turns out to be a planted decoy, a panic discard, or a meaningless coincidence, its story reminds everyone following the case that truth cannot be crowdsourced without patience. Until forensic science, not social media, delivers clear answers, the card remains just that: a clue, not a verdict. Between October 6 and 8, 2025, family and friends gathered quietly in Los Angeles to mourn Rivas Hernandez, the 15-year-old whose tragic death has since spiraled into one of the internet's most publicized mysteries. Her funeral was intimate, marked by white roses, photographs of her smiling with friends, and the kind of silence that only grief can impose. For those who loved her, the noise of online theories and speculation has been unbearable. They have asked for what any family in such pain deserves: answers, not assumptions. Amid the viral chaos surrounding the case, it is important to remember that behind every rumor is a real child and a grieving family. Posts like the one shared by influencer Nordabash, which falsely claims Celeste was 13 at the time of her death, illustrate how misinformation can distort truth and deepen suffering. Exaggeration, each clickbait headline, drags Celeste's name further from the dignity she deserves. Respect, in this context, means restraint, waiting for evidence, not exploiting emotion. The case demands empathy more than analysis, compassion more than commentary. The investigation will eventually determine how Celeste died. Until then, the most meaningful thing the public can do is honor her memory with quiet patience and truth-based awareness. In the coming weeks, the case is likely to enter a critical evidence phase, centered around autopsy and toxicology results expected before the end of October 2025. These findings will likely determine whether Celeste's death was caused by an overdose, suffocation, or another non-violent factor. If the results confirm overdose, the narrative may shift from homicide speculation to questions of accountability: who supplied the substances, who panicked, and why the body was hidden instead of reported. D4vd will also announce preliminary findings from the Tesla keycard forensic tests, including DNA and NFC serial data. If the card is matched to D4vd's vehicle, it will reinforce his proximity to the event, but still may not establish intent or direct action. However, if it fails to match or contains identified DNA, investigators may begin looking beyond his inner circle. Public attention is expected to remain intense. Mainstream outlets will follow forensic milestones closely, while Reddit and true crime forums will continue to debate competing theories. Yet the defining moment will come when facts, not speculation, fill the gaps left by silence. In that moment, the story may finally move from obsession to understanding, and Celeste's family may begin to receive the clarity they've long deserved.